Hi there, my name is Will, and for those of you who have an S550, you realize something if you drive it hard or you track it. Two things get hot. If you have an automatic transmission, that transmission does get hot. The other thing is the rear differential gets hot. One of the reasons why it does get hot on the rear end is that the exhaust actually wraps around the differential. Then after a hard drive, you stop, it heat soaks, then you go back out, and the next thing you know, the temperature rises really fast because it's already had a good heat soak up in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cool that down. So here's how I'm going to do it. I went out and picked up a Derale cooler, oil cooler, remote cooler, how you want to call it. Part number 13730. It's got a fan on it. I have used Derale coolers both on transmissions as well as differentials and also oil. In this case I picked up this one, the pump, Tilton 40524. I've used that on many of my cars. Picked up the cooler mostly because of its size. I knew I was going to put it in the spare tire well, so I want to make sure it fit in there without any difficulty. And I also got all these things from Jegs. It's not a plug for Jegs, it's just they make it nice and convenient, and the prices are actually pretty good. What I did here is I taped off in the green tape all the areas that you see that there's nothing really underneath the spare tire tray, well, what do you want to call it, except this area right here does have a couple of hoses that you got to be careful of. Laid it out. You'll see I got some blue or some black marks already laid out. That's because I tried several different fits, and this is where I made some marks that the items are going to find its final resting place. So let me show you another shot with everything kind of laid in where I want it. Okay, here is going to be the final resting place for the fan and the pump. It's well below where the cover goes, so when I do normal driving or commutes, I can have everything in its place, and then when I get to the track or do some heavy canyon runs, I can just pull that off, giving the diff cooler plenty of room to breathe. I am going to raise it up, the cooler. I'm going to raise it up probably about an inch and a half, so they get some air movement below it. I haven't got all the layout done on the hose. I want to get it in a permanent location that I knew I had plenty of room around it, and then I'll start laying out the hoses. So this will be over a several day period because I got to order some fittings once I figure it out. And we'll go, it's going to be all 8 AN fittings, except these two will have 3/8 MPT, so you'll have 8 AN going in, and I will have an 6 AN coming out, and that's because it's a 3/8 MPT, so it's about the same size as a 6, and it's going to go to a 3/8 hose bib, which I didn't realize I picked up until I started this video. So the inlet line is going to be a 6, and then I'll exit out with a fitting to go to an 8, and that's where I'll exit it out. I just don't know exactly which one I'll do yet. Next time you see this, I'll have pretty much the layout done. I will provide a complete parts list when this is all finished. And one other thing, you can buy these kits already pretty much packaged for you. It costs you right around $800 to $900. I am going to do this whole thing. I've set myself a budget of $450. I'm hoping to go in under that, but so far I've got about $350 in the pump and cooler, maybe a little bit less, but I will have a complete parts list once I finish. Okay, I drilled the holes. These holes are 5/16 inch diameter through in this area here. I did place a piece of cardboard under the pan between the hoses and in the pan, so that if the drill hit it, I didn't accidentally nick a line. I think that's very, very important. I clear coated with some touch-up paint the holes so that it won't get future rust. I did leave the tape on the rest of it that I knew I wasn't going to use right now, but I will use it when I start routing the hoses. so I can make notes and all that stuff. Okay, right here to get the cooler off the pan, off the bottom of the tray, I bought some spacer nuts, long hex nuts, or whatever you want to call it. I couldn't find an 1.5 inch long one or 2-inch one, so the longest I could find was 1 inch. So I put a set screw between it, Loctited it, and tightened them up, so I've got about 1.5 inches of space. I use some long or wide head Phillips wheel screws, which I will lock tight in place and then install it. So the next shot you see will be it installed. All right, it's all fastened up. I use green Loctite for the screws on the bottom going up on the standoffs here. That's medium strength. And I use blue Loctite for the screws that go down, just to keep them from vibrating loose. On the pump, I used the same type of screw, only I think it's a 1 inch long, using nylock screws. I should point out that the reason why I install actually all of my diff coolers that I've had on my cars, I install them on inside the tire well because of heat. Heat doesn't bother the fan or the cooler, but it does cause premature failure of the pumps when they get real close to heat. And if you guys have ever been underneath the S550, you know that the exhaust pipe actually wraps around this spare tire well pretty tight, and this will keep everything nice and cool. So the next thing will be to plumb everything up, and I'm going to lay it out, and then I'll buy the fittings, and next time I start the video, it'll have the top plumbed up, and then I'll go underneath the car and plumb up the bottom side. Alright, so I got this thing hooked up now. Drain your fluid, 1/2 inch MPT to a straight nipple onto a 8AN fitting, stainless steel braided hoses to a check valve, one way, all the way. Let's see if I can get this here. Move around a little bit. Alright, that's 90° into a bulkhead fitting. That way I can just drill a nice hole in the bottom of the spare tire tray and bolt it right in, so it makes it real nice and neat. Then, if you'll follow me up here, comes in. Anything that's red and blue means it's going to the cooler. Anything that's black is going to go away from the cooler. So going to the cooler, it's going to go, I got it wrapping around the cooler to my pump inlet. 90° AN 3/8 MPT through 3/8 MPT to a size 6. And this size 6 is running to the inlet. Goes through the cooler, back out. I got it stepped up to an 8AN fitting, male fitting to 90°, once again black. It's all 8AN from this point on. Back to another bulkhead fitting in the trunk floor. And let's go back underneath. There's a clean shot of that. Sorry, everything's wet underneath here because I just washed it. All right, I got a on-off valve here. 8AN fittings all under here. That way I can just turn it off when I want to drain the fluid. It'll only allow a small amount of oil to penetrate through. Going back into the diff, because of the configuration, this is a 90° right angle 1/2 inch MPT 8AN fitting to an 8AN 90° here. Okay, so that's the plumbing. Came out really nice. I'll go back up top and give you another overall view. The next thing I have to tackle is the electrical hookup. So let's go back up, take another final look at it. Okay, there's a good bird's eye view. This is just the electrical cable that I haven't hooked up yet. But that's it. Once again, I will provide a complete parts list at the end of this thing, so you guys can go out and purchase individual items. So far, I've got about 430 bucks in it, not counting the connectors and a switch. So, not too bad.